Hello, is anybody there? I don't know if we've had some catastrophic failure today. Hang on a second. Oh, yes, people are here. Hello. Oh, I'm so sorry. We are running late. I overran on a coaching session. Yevgeny couldn't make it. So, yes, this has all gone horribly wrong. But there we go. Never mind. I'm here now and you're here now as well. Although there's only a few of you. I'm really sorry about that. All right, so let's get started. I've got my headset on as well because I've just got off coaching. So can you all hear me? Just let me know whether you can hear me. Oh, I've got some chocolate on my lip as well. Is that me or is that the, oh yes, I do. I have some muffin on my lip. That's so mortifying. Oh, and I've gone red as well. Shocking. Right. Can you hear me? Right. You can hear me. Great. Okay. Right, so as you can see, I am not at all dressed in my day one careers outfit. Today's chaos, so yeah, I'm really, really sorry, but we'll just do our best. Hey, life happens. I was about to say the S word, but I probably shouldn't do that on YouTube. Right, so let me introduce myself. I am Gigi. I am an ex-bar raiser here at Day One Careers. Day One Careers is a small group now. It's a few more of us, but started by myself and Yevgeny of ex-Amazonians. We're hiring managers. We are ex-bar raisers and senior leaders who none of us are at Amazon any longer. But basically through our Amazon journeys, we identified that there were a whole bunch of people out there that were doing so much better at interview than anybody else that we were interviewing. And, you know, certainly Yevgeny and I got a little bit curious and identified that these people were getting specialist training and coaching. And I personally, we started our journey separately, by the way, Yevgeny and I. I started to look into the cost of Amazon interview coaching and discovered it was very expensive and probably most people wouldn't be able to afford it. I thought that was unfair. And so I set up a YouTube channel to help prospective Amazon candidates. That then evolved into running my own little business when I left Amazon, coaching candidates with digital courses and one-to-one coaching. And then Yevgeny and I met each other, realized that we had completely the same philosophy about how important we felt that getting access to this type of support was to people who didn't have bags of money, and we joined forces. So we have our YouTube channel. We have our own digital courses. Please stay until the end. Actually, let me just put on the banner because I forgot about that. And I will give you the most amazing freebie that you will get on Amazon interview preparation on YouTube, probably on Google as well. And I will answer your questions. So the way this works is that you ask your questions on the right-hand side here. I will work my way through them, pick out some questions that I think are going to be helpful for everybody, and answer them for you. Couple of asks, please. Please don't ask very generic questions. Hi, Gigi. I am interviewing for a program manager role tomorrow. Any tips? Because yay, we do have tips. We've got 150 videos on our YouTube channel. I obviously can't spend hours and hours giving you all of them now. So if you have just general inquiries, just go to the YouTube channel. We do have a little navigator doc that you can download. The link to that is in all of the descriptions that will give you exactly what videos are on the channel to make it easier to navigate. Hence, I think it's called the navigation guide, but that will help you. Equally, if you have a really specific question, hi, Gigi, I am applying as an electrical engineer for Amazon Air, and I have my interview tomorrow. What technical questions will they ask me? I'm afraid I cannot answer that question for you. There are tens of thousands, I think, of different job families now at Amazon, and no one person or even 5 people will be able to give you that level of detail about the technical questions you're going to be asked for that particular technical role. So I will have to pass on those as well. But broadly speaking, we managed to answer about 80-90% of the questions people ask us. So obviously I'm on my own today, so it'll be a little bit more stop-start than we achieve with Yevgeny. But let's go and see what happens. I do have a little bun here, by the way. Can you see my bun? It probably looks horrendous, actually. Just realized looking at that, like you'd be wondering, what the hell is Gigi eating? It is a little chocolate cocoa oat oatmeal bun thing that I've been trying to eat since about 2 o'clock. So I'm sorry if I'm stuffing bits of food into my mouth. Right, let us go. So say hello to people as we go along as well. So we have Semper, hello. Seri 2014, Gosia. Is that Gosia? Is that right? Talha. I remember you, I think, from last week. Let's keep going. Tim Ottersberg is here. Cyan is here. Oh, I did remember you from last week. That's right, Talha, because you've just said you've got an offer. Right. So I do love to take a couple of moments just to congratulate people. I realize I've got no makeup on either today. It's just shocking disaster. I don't think I'm going to load this one onto YouTube. Congratulations, Talha. Absolutely thrilled for you. You are more than welcome for all the guidance that we've given you. And I'll say we because Yevgeny isn't here, but he is at least in spirit. Wish you the very, very best of luck and a fantastic Amazon career. I'm sure you will have a great time. Oh, Sumesh is here. Thank you for the moral support, Sumesh. I really appreciate it. Right, I'm keeping going down to the questions at the bottom. So I think I've got to a chunk of them here. Right. Okay. Do be careful with questions that jump across. I know you ran out of word count, but it's hard to read them when they go across different kind of submissions. So I'm sorry, I might have to jump one or two. Oh, okay, cool. Hey, Rohit. So what is the difference between L6 and L7 interview style and expectations? Absolutely nothing. Nothing whatsoever. The actual well, I won't say about expectations. The interview style is exactly the same, whether you're applying for an L4 or you're applying all the way up to, I don't know, SVP. The way Amazon approaches interviews is exactly the same. Globally, exactly the same. At different levels, exactly the same. Everybody will face the behavioral interviews. Everyone will be dealing with the 16 leadership principles, some of which will be more important than others in their particular role. Everyone will be asked behavioral questions. There are behaviors that are clearly defined as being the types of behaviors they're looking for and the types of behaviors that they're not looking for. Those are the same, regardless of whether you're an L3 all the way up to an SVP. If you're in a technical role, it will be slightly different in terms of you'll face technical questions. But again, regardless of whether you're an L3 or an SVP, if you're doing technical questions, you will get technical questions, and it's exactly the same. In terms of expectations, the difference between L6 and L7 will be the same as the difference between an L5 and L6, which is an increased level of complexity and scope is expected between an L6 and L7. So the actual interview itself doesn't change, but the complexity that is expected from your examples does change. I cannot sit and tell you here and now exactly what that difference looks like because, number one, kind of from a scope perspective, it entirely depends on the functional role that you are applying for. And also, the expectation is a benchmark against an internal bar. So there's not really written down exactly what a strength in an L7 looks like. No, for earn trust, there's definitely documented what strength looks like in earns trust, but the actual benchmark that they're looking for is they're looking to see your examples and compare the examples that you've used and the level of complexity and challenge and the context and who you're working with and who your key stakeholders are and your main interactions, comparing that to examples from their existing teams operating at that level. So I cannot, and no one can sit down and tell you exactly what is raising the bar at an L7 level or an L6 level. And if they say they can tell you exactly what it is, they're lying. What they can tell you is based on their experiences, what they believe would or would not be raising the bar at those certain levels. So you just need to put in as much complexity, as many challenges, as many senior stakeholders as possible, as much ambiguity as you can, as much risk and things at stake, as much impact as you possibly can into your stories to effectively up level your answers. I hope that helps. Okay, moving on then. Patrick. I think I might have just covered this, Patrick. Is the loop fully behavioral or does it also contain technical questions? That entirely depends on the role that you are applying for. So the only person that can really answer that for you is your recruiter. So please do go back to your recruiter and ask if you are going to any type of interview, whether it's loop or actually even whether it's the early rounds, round 1, round 2, if you happen to have one. Those could also both be a mix of behavioral and technical. So ask your recruiter. Okay. Let's see if I can find another question then. Oh, big jump, big jump, big jump, massive jump. Oh, I've lost it now. Right, sorry, people. This thing has a mind of its own sometimes. Okay. Hello, Boopy. That sounds like something I would say to one of my children. Hello, Boopy. Right. Mind you, I'm doing this because they're so wide, these things. I wonder if I lift my chair up, whether that will help. Hang on. No, wrong button. Is that the right one? I have no idea. All right. I need to sit on a cushion or something. Right. So you're headed into a second round. This is a non-technical sales. Should you expect for the same for the second round? Broadly, I would say yes, you should probably expect more of the same. Now, again, as I said a minute ago, sometimes it will be a combination of functional and behavioral. It's a sales leader role that you're just talking to me about. So I would expect that you shouldn't really be facing any particular kind of functional slash technical questions and that yours really will be about behavioral. But that's my assumption. Best thing to do always is just check with your recruiter. I hope that helps. This is a good question. No one has ever asked me this question before. No one. It's a really good question. Thank you for asking it. Do candidates get down leveled after the phone screen, or does it only happen after panel interview? So just so that everybody is on the same kind of wavelength here, just to explain what down leveling is. So down leveling is literally being moved down a level. So maybe you're applying for an L7 role and they come back to you and say, actually, we don't think you're right for L7. We think you're right for L6. Now, to your point, Mehran, this can actually happen at 2 different points, or depending on how many interviews you have. So the first, it can definitely happen in the early rounds where you meet a candidate, you're interviewing them against a particular role at a particular level, and you get the answers and you think, actually, no, I don't think this candidate is operating at this level. What you can then say is, I think this person should be interviewed at the level below. Now, what can happen is the hiring manager, who's to look at the feedback, can make a decision as to whether they want to continue you on in the process as a level below, because in some cases roles have flexibility where you can actually down scope the role and you're comfortable down scoping the role, in which case you might choose to continue the candidate along the process and assume that you will be looking at them in the context of, let's say in this case, an L5 rather than an L6. So you can get down leveled mid-process and then be interviewed at that level below in the rest of your process. What can happen is you get all the way through the whole process itself, through the loop and to the debrief. And then at debrief, everybody decides that actually you're not operating at the L6 level, but you are raising the bar at the L5 level. At that point in time, the hiring manager can make a decision if they are willing to downscope the role to make you an offer at an L5. If they're not willing to downscope the role, they will simply reject you in relation to the particular role that they are looking to hire. So, Mehran, great question. No one's ever asked it before. The answer is it can happen at both points. Thank you for that one. Okay, moving on then. Okay, just going to quickly say, I think I've answered this already. You'd like to ask about senior role leadership principle stories, which are quite different than general leadership principles. They're not. I don't know where you've got this idea that they're any different. They're not. Which points are important? I think I mentioned that on the answer earlier. So no, they're no different. You just need to make yourself sound as senior as possible, dealing with as complex problems as possible with as much scope as possible, demonstrated across the range of your examples. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay, Annie. Right. This goes on quite long, but hey, Annie, it's good to see you again. Okay. Please share if Amazon selects basis aptitude, bar raise, or basis functional skills parameters. Some role I can across is of my interest where I want to diverge towards growth. Okay, but with maybe 75 functional skills, does functional matter more? Right. Okay. Um, right. Okay. Right, Annie. So let me break this down into a couple of points because I think you're slightly conflating your ability to match the requirements of the job description towards how you are being assessed from a functional skills point of view versus a behavioral skills point of view. So you need to break those things apart. From a job description versus your resume or CV for us here in the UK, there are basic requirements that you have to meet, and then there are preferred requirements. Your recruiter will scan your resume and take a view as to whether you achieve the basic requirements. If so, you're a potential candidate, and then they'll look at the preferred requirements and they'll see do you do you tick most of them, and then they'll pass you on to the hiring manager. There's no it must be 75%. There's nothing as empirical as that, but directionally you're going to need to meet probably 60-70% of just the requirements as determined by the job description before anyone's going to take your resume seriously for your application. Okay, so resume is now out the window. You then move on to functional. I do have a video. We have a video on the YouTube channel about the weighted contribution between functional and behavioral. I think it went out maybe last week or the week before, so please go check that out. I will summarize for you now to say that there is no weighted contribution between behavioral and functional in terms of what is required for you to be considered raising the bar. There will be a basic level of competency that any hiring manager is going to want from a functional skills point of view, below which you could not actually operate in the role. So there is a line to me. I don't want to call it a bar because that kind of confuses the issue, but there is a line of competency that you're going to have to meet for them even to trust that you can do the job. Then the question becomes the whole. So people will be assessing your functional skills and they will give you a calibration in the same way as when they're assessing your behavioral stories against the leadership principles, they will give you a calibration. And the group at the end of it, when it comes to the debrief, will look at the overall picture of your calibration. Are you leaning towards strengths? Are you leaning towards concern? And there will just be a discussion around where are they willing to make compromises. Now, in my experience as a bar raiser, people are generally more willing to make compromises on functional skills because in the main, you can teach functional skills. You can definitely coach behavioral skills. Don't get me wrong there. I'm not saying that they aren't coachable because they are. But from a bar raiser's point of view, in particular, if you aren't considered to be raising the bar on the most important leadership principles, you're not getting in. If you weren't raising the bar better than 50% of the population from a functional point of view, a bar raiser would still be willing to let you in if your hiring manager was confident that they could teach you the functional skills required to make you to increase your skill set in that space. I hope that answers your question. Okay, did I bring water? I did bring water. Hang on a second, sorry. Okay, sorry. Right, let's see what else we have here. Okay, moving on. Okay, I'm just going to do this one quickly. Semper Ives, that's a cool name. I really like that name. Not that the rest of you don't have lovely names, but that's just a cool name. I don't know why, it just works really well visually. Maybe because it starts in an S and ends in an S. Anyway, and the P and the I kind of go in different directions. Anyway, right, for an L5 program manager, what can your compensation expected to be around? Okay, Semper, where do you live? Like, this would be a very different conversation if you were in India versus if you were in Japan. The broad point being, I do not know the compensation bands for Amazon across the world for all of the different job families at all the different levels. Like, nobody knows that. So some broad advice in case anybody wants to ask the same type of question is you do need to do your research. Now, if you're in the US, my daughter's just sending me some messages. Hang on. Very unprofessional, I know. Oh, that's okay. She's just messaging me to tell me that she is getting fish and chips for dinner at her friend's house. There we go. Compensation, very, very different across the globe. In the US, if you want to find out what the kind of likely compensation bands are, there are some good resources, levels.fyi, payscale.com. You can use both of those. They're good resources. You can also use Glassdoor, which is much less reliable because it's basically just user contributed content, which has no validation whatsoever, but that should potentially help you. And there's also a really good site called Team Blind, I believe it is. You'll need a corporate email address in order to access that, but lots of people go on there and provide information about the roles that they've got and the compensation that they've managed to negotiate. So that's great for the US. Unfortunately, for the rest of the world, it's not looking so great. In the UK, you're really going to have to rely on things like Glassdoor and looking at other job postings and seeing whether there are any other job postings in your space, in the country, in the town that you're in, the city that you're in, that actually quote the salary bands. I think once you get into France, Germany, Italy, it's even more difficult than in the UK, but you are just going to have to do some basic research around what it looks to be market value in your area, and then be able to share that, or at least get the information from Amazon in terms of the banding that they're offering. So I'm sorry, I cannot answer what the salary bands are for anybody in any country whatsoever. You need to do your research. Okay. Oh, I just saw one there that I wanted to cover off and it's gone now. This thing jumps around like a crazy thing. I've got lots of questions today, but that's good. Right. Here we go. I'm going to do this one. Hi, Candice. Oh, that is a lovely image. A lovely family. How nice. Right. So what is focused on during the panel interviews? It entirely depends on the role that you're applying for. So what they should be focusing on at the panel interview is the key leadership principles for your role. From a behavioral point of view, as I said earlier, you may have some functional aspects of your panel interview as well. Bear that in mind. Every single role, there are obviously 16 leadership principles. Every single role has some that are more important than others. There are 3 ways to try and work out what are the more important leadership principles for your role. The first is to ask your recruiter. It's about 50-50 chances, I reckon, of your recruiter actually telling you what the key leadership principles are. So you should definitely start there. The second thing you can do is read your job description and go through it line by line by line and see if you can extract from that language that leans towards particular leadership principles. There are 2 videos on the Day One Careers YouTube channel that show you me doing that type of exercise live for people who are giving me their job IDs. So I kind of walk you through how you can deconstruct a job description. So go check that out and maybe you can do it yourself. And then the last way of doing it is we at Day One Careers do actually offer a service where we will go through your job description line by line by line by line and send you back a count of how many times each leadership principle is mentioned in stack rank order. So that's your third option. If you want to do that, the link to that is in the descriptions of any video, I think, on the channel. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question. Okay. I like this question. Semper, you're back. So I like this question because it gives me the opportunity to get on my soapbox, and there's nothing a British person likes doing better than getting on a soapbox. So here we go. Is there anything different with interviewing with a bar raiser than with other interviewers? No, is the simple answer to that. There is nothing different. There are no special leadership principles that they are signed. There are no special questions that they are likely to ask. There are no specific criteria that they are looking for that anybody else is not already looking for. Nothing at all different about your interview with a bar raiser. Now, I know there are many places on the web and plenty of people who will tell you they can teach you how to ace the bar raiser interview. They can't. They can teach you how to ace the interviews as a whole because it's exactly the same, but no one can teach you the secret sauce of nailing your bar raiser interview. And if they say they can, as I say, they're lying or they don't really understand the whole thing works. Either way, if you come across those people, feel free to send them in my direction and I will explain to them why it is that what they're saying is not actually true. But I was a bar raiser. I was trained by bar raisers. We have 3 bar raisers or ex-bar raisers, I should say, here at Day One Careers. We know exactly what we're talking about when it comes to bar raisers. So I can climb off my soapbox now, Semper, and say, no, don't worry about it. You need to focus on being amazing at every single one of your interviews, regardless of whether you believe that person is the bar raiser or not the bar raiser. Okay, moving on. Right, so, oh wow, so many questions today. I'm never going to get through them all. Okay, now I do need to briefly pause at this point because I need something from you. So clearly, we put tons of effort here at Day One Careers into our YouTube channel. Literally, I think thousands of people have managed to land roles just through this YouTube channel and then finding us in the Day One Careers digital product. It takes a lot of effort to give you this stuff. So, in return, I need you to do something for us, which is whenever you are watching one of our videos, please give me a millisecond just to give it a little thumbs up or a little bit longer to type us a little comment in the box. That's a positive engagement signal for the YouTube algorithm. That will then get YouTube to realize there is good content happening here at Day One Careers and then prioritize our content over some of the other terrible content that seems to somehow appear ahead of our content in the algorithm, which I don't really understand, but the algorithm does bias towards number of views, and number of views obviously biases towards tenure. So there's a whole bunch of like content that's been out there for like 5 years that's rubbish and appears before us in the algorithm. So I need you to give it those positive signals. So please, just for the next couple of seconds, if you would kindly just give this little session a thumbs up. And whilst you do, I have a little clip to play whilst you give it the thumbs up. I'm really sorry that Evgeny isn't here today because this is the first one where I've managed to get him into it, but that's his loss, right? So I'm just going to play it for you. Please, whilst it's playing, give me a little thumbs up on this video. Here we go.
Please like the stream now. Please like the stream now. Please like the stream now. Please like the stream. 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 Like the stream.
Okay, I didn't lose too many people. I'd love to know whether you thought that one was all right or not. That's the third one of these I've done. It did just blast my ears out. I did have my headphones on quite high volume. So if I blasted your ears with that, I am really sorry. Let me know and I can always re-record it and turn down the volume on it. But I hope you enjoyed that. That was my Sunday afternoon recording that. Right, back to the important business of answering your questions. So let's see what else we can get here. Okay. Oh, gosh. Sorry. I know this is very kind of lots of pregnant pauses here, so I apologize. Yeah, I'll quickly do this one. Oh, Mehran again. Okay. Didn't realize it was you. I'll cover this one off quickly. So, do you sign a non-compete agreement preventing them from working for other fan companies? No. I mean, you just have to see the number of people and look at LinkedIn and the number of people who are jumping between Netflix, Amazon, Google. Like, no, don't worry about it. And by the way, non-compete clauses are really, really hard to legally enforce. At least they are in my country and in Europe. Really, really hard to enforce a non-compete clause. So I tend to not worry about them too much, to be honest with you. Okay. Moving on. Yep. Hey, Prince. So you think you quoted quite a low salary expectation when the RC called you to schedule the interviews. Can you still bump it up if you get through the interview round successfully? Yeah, of course you can. It's a negotiation at the end of the day. It's not ideal if you kind of lowballed yourself at the very beginning of the process, but at the end of it, if you're given an offer and it's now below what your revised expectations are, you simply need to tell them that although you appreciated that you gave them a certain range at the beginning of the process, you've now had time to do some more research and look into the market averages a bit more. And with this extra data that you have compiled, your expectations, or at least what you're looking for, looks more like this than it did like that when you started the process. So it's obviously not ideal because your recruiter will kind of try and gather you an offer based on the original data that you gave them. But it's a negotiation at the end of the day. You're not locked into anything until you actually sign on the dotted line. Hope that helps. Okay, so if the interviewer didn't like your answer for one question, does that hinder your chances? You're able to answer all the others at your loop, right? Stephanie, as I said earlier, it's all about the big picture, the round. So you will, in your loop, let's say you've got an average loop is 5 people. So let's say you had 5 people and on average 3 questions, that's 15 questions, right? So they're going to pull together all of the data across those 15 questions. They're going to look at each of the leadership principles and the data that they gathered on those leadership principles, both accidentally gathered and intentionally gathered, and calibrate you for each leadership principle, and then look at the whole picture in the round. So if you didn't do well on one question out of 15, like, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. So you've got to. My advice to you all is once it's done, it's done. Like, don't try and overthink how it went and if I didn't do well on this one and will I still do well and blah blah blah, because broadly speaking, what you thought your how you think your interview went is probably not the way your interviewer felt it went. There has been a study, I keep looking for it, I kind of hear this kind of as a hearsay more than having seen the study myself, but apparently there was a study that showed zero correlation between the performance a candidate thinks they put in an interview and the performance that the interviewer felt they put in. So not really worth kind of worrying about that. And then second, look, there's nothing you can do about it anyway. Once it's done, it's done. But it's all about the round, right? So you can't really think about any individual interview and come to some kind of conclusion on that basis for yourself, because it just doesn't work that way. Okay, moving on. Okay, so do I recommend a coaching session before a second phone interview, or would it be better before loop? That's hard to answer because it kind of depends what you are using your coaching sessions for, to be honest with you. So if your primary goal of a coaching session is to build the foundational skills that you need to make sure that you have good stories with a good level of detail, well structured and well narrated, you probably want to have your coaching session as early on as possible. Now, round ones tend to be a bit of a mix between maybe behavioral, maybe functional, maybe just one, maybe the other, maybe this ridiculous why Amazon type thing. But if you're using coaching to build up your interview skills, then have it earlier because you're more likely to make it to loop. Other candidates use coaching sessions to literally go through, and they have to have quite a few coaching sessions to be able to do this, to go through what they believe the key leadership principles are and the deep diving on being mock interviewed for those particular leadership principles. So we have candidates that have like 4 coaching sessions because they want to get through the key leadership principles that they know or they believe to be the ones for loop. And therefore it's a good thing to wait until loop, because then you can really deep dive and you'll have a good scrub on the particular questions that you're being asked. Empirically, I cannot tell you the outcomes and how they differ between people who have done that preparation earlier on and the people that have done that preparation before loop. It's really about How do you plan to use that coaching session? What skills do you want to develop, or what outputs are you looking for from that coaching session? Once you know those outputs, then that should indicate to you whether you need or want to have that higher up the flow or lower down the flow. Information that you learn will stick with you one way or another. Okay, hope that was kind of helpful. Moving on then. Oh, another big jump. Sorry. All right, there's lots, sorry people, there's lots that are spread out across multiples, and I'm sorry, I'm literally struggling to follow those. So if you've done a really long one that's jumped across like 3, I'm sorry, I'm probably not going to get to it because my brain is struggling to even find them on the list. Okay. Okay, yes, I can answer this one. Well, I say I can answer it. I can tell you what I think is the case. But so you're asking, hello, Frutik? Would that be the way I would say your name? I apologize if that's wrong. Please apologize to your parents for me. You applied for an import logistics role. The role which you applied for is in the EU, and you are currently in India. Do Amazon provide working remotely? Not between countries, as I understand it. There are massive and very complicated tax implications for place of supply versus the P&L that you are operating within. Amazon has different limited companies in different parts of the world, and there are tax implications if the company is limited in one particular part of the world and you as a worker are living in another part of the world. So I don't know this definitively, this is my extrapolation from my knowledge of kind of tax and kind of that type of thing. No, I would imagine not. So when they say remote, in Amazon terms, it would have to be remote within the tax authority that the company that you're working for is limited to. So I know you're thinking Amazon, but Amazon is not one company. Amazon is one brand. There are many different registered legal entities that make up the overall Amazon ecosystem. Okay, moving on then. Okay, so I'm just trying to find one that I can answer in a useful manner. Okay. Hey, Eric, what's my opinion on contractor positions at Amazon as a way to get into the company? For example, a 6-month contractor. So I think contract positions are a very good way to get into the company. Now, it's not a fait accompli that if you are a contractor that when you apply, you try and interview for a blue badge that you will convert. It's not a definite. You will be held to exactly the same standard as anybody outside the company. But the good thing about being a contractor is you'll understand the bar because you'll be working with these people every single day and you will be able to understand what an L6 looks like, what an L5 looks like, what an L4 looks like, which will help you identify which of your stories really will be raising the bar stories. You'll understand the leadership principles inside and out because effectively you will be working as an Amazonian. So you will really understand those leadership principles properly. So I would say to anybody, if you really want to work at Amazon and you're struggling to get yourself a full-time role, going in as a contractor can really, really help when you want to actually try and get yourself a full-time role. As I say, not a fait accompli, and I'm afraid I have declined a number of contractors who were trying to convert as a bar raiser in the past. Have to be honest, but it definitely gives you that inside perspective that you're just never going to get when you're not inside. I hope that makes sense. Moving on then. Right, okay. Anurag, yes, it's very hard to read your question because it's like across so many different boxes, but I can see you pleading with me here. So I think I'm going to summarize this up to, right? I'll pull this one out. So it sounds like you had what you felt was a difficult last interview, and you did 5 rounds, last round today, and the others went well. What should you do now? Wait. I'm not really sure what type of answer you were hoping from me here. There's nothing you can do now. You've had your interviews. Whether you thought they were good, bad, or indifferent is kind of irrelevant, and probably, as I said a minute ago, probably not in line with the reality of what the interviewers felt anyway. So there's nothing you can do. Just you're going to have to wait. So it's 5 working days that you should expect your outcome in. Quite often, more often than not these days, they're not achieving that SLA because they're just so busy. But wait your 5 days, and if you don't hear back from your recruiter, a polite follow-up in terms of, I would love to hear what the outcome is. I'm super keen to join Amazon. Okay? Nothing you can do. Okay, moving on then. Okay. Okay. Hi, Tisha. Hope I've pronounced that right as well. How long should you wait to apply again for a different role post rejection? So it depends actually on what your recruiter tells you. So some people will find themselves being told that they have to go into a cooling off period. So a cooling off period happens where your panel think you're a very long way. Although I've assumed that you're asking me about panel and loop. It could be higher up the flow, I suppose. So, all right, let's start at the top. If you fail at the early rounds, round 1 or maybe round 2, if you have one, then you can apply again straight away. Up to you. You decide. You should apply again whenever you want. If you fail at loop, you could be told by your recruiter that you've been put into a cooling off period. Different teams have different cooling off periods, 6 months, 12 months, even 24 months. I'm now hearing for some tech roles, which seems a long time to me, but you'll be told if you're actually in a cooling off period. If they don't tell you you're in a cooling off period, then you can apply again as soon as you want. So I encourage people who fail to apply again. In Day One Careers, we recently had someone who failed their Amazon interview for an L6 3 times over the course of, I think it's 2 years, Yevgeny said, and have just managed to land an L7 role. So it is definitely worth being persistent and applying again. The only caution that I give is that you don't want a string of too many failures too close together, because they will see those failures on the internal system called hire, and they will simply be asking themselves, well, if this person has failed, say 3 times in the last 6 months, what are the odds that they're going to succeed this time? Probably not great. Not going to waste my time on them. So just be a little bit conscious about how many times you apply in a particular constrained length of time. But unless you're told that you're on a cooling off period, you should be free to reapply whenever you want. Okay. Woo. Moving on. We've got about 9 minutes left. Let's see if I can get somebody new. Okay. Okay, so there's a couple of people asking me, oh, let me just get rid of you there, Tisha, before I move on. A couple of people asking me for advice on the specific questions that they'll get for their particular job family. You probably missed the beginning of the intro on this, so I'm going to tell you I cannot tell you what specific questions you're going to get for particular job families. But on the technical side, there are, oh, excuse me, hang on a second. Gosh, I am sorry. There are tens of thousands of different job families in Amazon. Like, there's no way 1 or even 5 group of 5 people are going to be able to tell you the specifics of any particular job family and the technical questions you're going to be asked. And then when it comes to the behavioral questions, there are no specific ones for any particular job family or any particular role. Interviewers just ask their favorite ones. So can't answer those questions. So please don't ask them. Right, moving on. Anurag, I mean, come on. How many times do you need to do the same thing? Hang on, oh, my daughter's calling me. Sorry, can't talk right now. Right, I got it, Anurag. Usually, everyone, just to let you know, if I don't answer your question, it's usually because I can't, or there's not really a sensible answer to your question. So please don't bang it in repeatedly, because that's not very useful for anybody. Okay, so let me try and get past all of those and see if I can find another question. Oh, hi, Selma. Oh, okay. You had your first part of your on-site and your first interview didn't make it. They were sick. How does it impact the process? Well, that's a good question. So I think your hiring manager and your recruiter have a couple of choices here, and they'll have to work with your bar raiser on this. In some cases, there might be have been enough people on your original panel for them to just keep moving on and accept that this person will not have interviewed you and still continue with their process. However, if they feel that that will result in you having not had enough interviewers, what they might do is try and rearrange that interview from that interviewer at a later stage, maybe a couple of days after your loop, or they may have to just get another interviewer in to do a one last interview for you if this person is like long-term sick. So it could go either way. It might make no difference to the process whatsoever, and you might just go straight through and they'll accept the loss of that one interviewer, or you may end up having to have an extra interview, or not an extra interview, move that interview to a later date. Ask your recruiter, best thing to do. Usually that's the best answer for everything, to ask your recruiter, but this case, definitely check with your recruiter. Okay. Okay, I'm not quite sure I understand this, so I'm just going to reread this one. You're in the middle of interviews, but after watching Jeff Bezos a lot, okay, you mean Bezos. I'm sure he's had many spellings of his name, so hopefully you won't watch this. You have an idea that you think you want to work as a startup. Is it okay to withdraw to try go start your idea and this will leave better? No, no, no. People withdraw from the interview process all of the time. No, no, no. Don't worry about it. If you want to go have a go start something yourself, go have a go and start something yourself. They won't, there's been no black mark against your name because you withdrew from the process. Good luck. I hope it goes well. It's not easy starting something from scratch, I can tell you. But yeah, good for you. Go do it. Don't try it. Life is too short to be scared of trying things. Okay. So, yeah, okay. Hey, I am Amos. Welcome back. I definitely remember seeing you before. So, you're waiting for the outcomes. Do positive compliments I hear from hiring managers matter in decision making? No. Seriously, don't try and read between the lines of what people say to you in the interview. Some Amazonians are supposed to be very poker faced when it comes to how they respond to you in an interview, because how they feel about what you say in the moment is not necessarily how they will feel about what you say when they sit down and review their notes, and that may not be how they feel about you when they sit and do the debrief with 4, 5, 6, 7 other people. So just don't think about it. It is not a positive or a negative indicator. It's just what their mouth said at the time. Do not waste your time or energy trying to read between the lines. It's not going to be indicative of anything. Okay. God, everyone's trying to call me today. Right. Did they not know I'm on YouTube? I'm on YouTube at the same time every single week. What are they doing? You think my family would pay attention to where I was? Obviously not. Right. Okay. What else? What else? What else? So we've got a couple of minutes. So let me pick a couple more. See if I can find someone who hasn't asked. Okay, yeah, yeah, Taylor. Hi, Taylor. How you doing? So, can someone get a job at Amazon if they've experienced with successful self-employment and entrepreneurship without previous corporate? Yeah, for sure. So, again, Amazon is about getting into Amazon is about your functional skills. Can you functionally do the job? And about your behaviors. How do you behave in certain situations? Now, behavior itself is not relative to the type of organization you've worked in before, right? How I earn people's trust doesn't really change whether I work in a team of 10 people or whether I work in a team of 1.3 million people, if you think about Amazon. The only caveat that I'll give to you on that side, Taylor, is just from my own experience working in my tiny little business that I started myself versus working in Amazon. The scope of work that I did and the possible scenarios that I faced on a daily basis when I was working in Amazon was much more broad and varied than what I do now. So the opportunities to come across situations where I could demonstrate those behaviors is now much more limited in my small business than it was when I was working in Amazon. The actual behaviors that I'm able to demonstrate when I find those situations are no different. So, in theory, absolutely no problem. It doesn't matter if you haven't come from a corporate background, but you're just, I think, from your background, going to need to maybe work a little bit harder to find as many situations or scenarios as you're going to need for your Amazon interview from your small business, simply because I hypothesize, and maybe I hypothesize wrongly because your small business is different to my small business. The opportunity to come across those different scenarios for me is materially reduced in this little world I occupy now compared to when I was in Amazon. But in theory, it shouldn't make any difference. Hope that made sense. All right, so I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to give you an amazing freebie. Do not leave before you get this amazing freebie. I'm telling you, you'll be very upset if you do. Yeah, I get this question quite a lot, actually. Hey, Angus, how are you doing? So, do I think the length of each interview correlates the chance of getting an offer eventually? Honestly, people, you overthink this stuff. It's insane. Would ending early be a good sign? It could be either. Going long could be good or it could be bad. Going short could be good or could be bad. It could be either. Going short could be good because they've got all the information that they need. They think you're an absolute superstar and they're thinking, I don't need to spend another 15 minutes with this person to know that I think they're a superstar. I think they're a superstar. I'm going to end now. Or it could be, this is a disaster and no amount of speaking to this person any longer is going to give me any evidence that they are coming anywhere near to the bar. But for the sake of customer experience, I'm going to say, I'm going to stick with this interview for 30 minutes and then close it then. Could be either way. So don't worry about it. Don't think about it. It is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it now. So just wait for your outcome. Okay. So, on that note, here is the freebie that you have all been waiting for that will change your life. All right, so here we go. Have I got the right direction here? Right. It's not very pithy, this. I think we're going to have to come up with a shorter one, but please do follow that URL. And at the end of that URL, you will find a free course on the Amazon Leadership Principle of Customer Obsession. It is a course that we would usually charge $15 for. It's not one of these kind of half-baked courses that don't teach you anything and you have to then go buy the rest of the course in order to make any sense. The first part, no, is totally free. It's all about customer obsession. If you watch that course, you will know everything you need to know about customer obsession. It teaches you the 4 different facets of customer obsession. Facets is a learning model that we created here at Day One Careers about how to understand the leadership principles better. It's excellent. And you can't find it anywhere else, or if you can, they stole it from us. But hey ho, four facets of customer obsession. It then tells you what the interviewer is looking for in your answers. It tells you what they're looking for in your answers based on our experience. And then there's a mock interview, me interviewing me, so you can see how the whole thing comes together, different makeup, different kind of clothes. It's obviously looks very professional. So go check that out. Seriously, it's totally free and it will make a massive difference to your ability to do well on the customer obsession leadership principle. Right. On that note, we are now done for the day. I need to go and check my family's dinner. Thank you very much for joining. I'm sorry it was slightly chaotic and I'm not dressed for the occasion. And I didn't get anywhere near my bun either. It's just probably dry and stale by now. But thank you very much for joining. I'm sorry I couldn't get through all of your questions. If you have any other questions, you can always put them in the comment section of any of our videos on the YouTube channel and we will try and get to them. And as I say, please do go take that Customer Obsession Masterclass. You will not regret it, I promise you. So bye-bye, everyone. Good luck if you have interviews coming up this week. Goodbye, Samesh. It's always good to see you. Please come back again next week and stay safe in this crazy world. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.